I just jumped into what was already happening. There was already a lot that was going on. The creation care has been very important to this congregation since its earliest days. So I got to come on board onto some things that were already happening. So it wasn't just me. And even starting the Zero Waste Church website, there are other folks who've been an integral part in that. I've just been the cheerleader to say, let's do it. Let's make this happen. We can do this. I also think I've been the person to take the mountaintop view and look down and pull the pieces together and draw the connections of all the different things that were happening already, and to draw the ideas together for folks and help give it some clarity around the vision. For example, we've had a community garden here since 2011. It was one of the first things that happened once I got here. The talks had already been in process, and I just said, yes, let's do it. It's 16 beds now that different families take turns tending to a bed. The produce that we create goes to a low-income retirement home and is shared in the congregation as well. So we were already doing that. A couple years later, we started a pollinator garden on a piece of our grounds to really encourage the bees and the butterflies, to give them a home. We made a commitment to only having native plants here on our grounds, and anything we planted here was going to be native to this area of North Carolina. We then decided not to put any more chemicals on our lawns and on our grounds. So step by step, bit by bit, we were doing these things. We did a big energy audit in 2012 and looking at all the ways we could reduce our energy, which then also reduced our cost too, which helped us save money, which has been really important. So all of these things swirling around, all of a real commitment to reducing food waste, to helping folks with food insecurity issues, all of that, a big piece and part of the congregation. And in 2017, I'm stepping back and looking at all the things happening. I suggested to three other folks, really said, let's take this to the next level. We had a member of the congregation, Dargan Gilmore, who had been very involved in the Zero Waste Home movement, was getting some groups going here in Raleigh and in Cary towards zero waste to encourage people to do that in their home. And we thought, well, let's do this in church. Let's start talking about waste and looking overall at all the different ways that all these things really do connect, is what we realize. Also learning about an initiative called carbon farming and what an impact that can have on climate change and in reducing the excess, taking out carbon from the atmosphere and getting it back into the ground where it should be. So all these things happening and building these small steps after small steps. In 2017, we decided we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. We're going to say we are a zero waste church. And it really started with our Shrove Tuesday pancake supper. So the big pancake celebration right before Lent starts, right before Ash Wednesday, which seemed very appropriate to say everything we use for this dinner is going to be reusable or compostable. We're not going to have any trash from this dinner. That we had over 100 people attend, and we had just a small bag of trash at the end. And that was because somebody pulled out extra paper plates that couldn't be composted that we already had. So that really started us on this idea of composting everything, reusing everything, and thinking about how all the things we were doing here. So it wasn't just a program, but I would say that being zero waste is a way of life, that it is a part of our core ethic of who we are and our identity, and that all of our programs here take those ideas into account. Another thing we did is we realized if we would tell people about this, they'd be very curious. And so the website, Zero Waste Church, was born. So it's www.zerowastechurch.org, that we started this place to share ideas, to curate resources, and to also share other people's stories too, knowing that we're not the experts. We're really making this up as we go along, and we want to hear what other people are already doing, and that we can share these ideas, we can share these resources together. So that's a little bit about where we are. We still have a ways to go and things that we'd like to keep doing. We were able to put solar panels on one of our buildings here. Energy that comes onto the campus now is renewable. We have one building that is a net zero building. So that's exciting and cool. And I'm here to say a medium-sized church can do it. A small church can do it too. And that's like another thing I think Zero Waste Church can do, is help encourage folks to look into ways that these things that felt out of reach are possible. So a little bit about how can you do this? How can you take this into your community or your congregation or your school, whatever your community is. We live inside communities, and I think the things that we do, the small things we start, can have ripple effects and can affect those other communities. So certainly you can go to the Zero Waste Church site, and we have a very handy dandy printable called 20 Action Items to take your church to zero waste. And you could do that. You could choose one thing out of that list. But there are a couple of things, just an overall, again, taking that step back to look broader picture of things to keep in mind if you do decide that you want to take your church or your congregation or your community, whatever that might be, deeper into this, is some kind of core things that I think are important. And number one is your leadership. That you need a leader, you need a core team of people who are super committed to this, that this is what they're about, this is the issue that it makes their heart sing, essentially, that they're going to be committed to making sure to always be the ones pushing this and making it happen. And if you are a church or a congregation, it is important that your clergy, I think, is on board. They don't have to necessarily be the drivers. I'm not the driver of this train. It is the leadership of this church that is driving the train. Like I said, I'm the cheerleader who says, yeah, let's do it. We can make this happen. What resources do we need? What do we need to do next? But I think it's really important for clergy to be on board. And I would say, if there are any clergy listening to this, it will take some time from you. It will, but I think it's manageable time. And it is you being the ones who, again, take the step back and help people draw the connections. Can you bring this into your governing board meetings? Can you talk about how this affects your resources? We talk about this in budgeting time. Can we do a zero-based budget starting from zero? Like, there are a lot of ways to really create, again, as I say, a way of life, a way of being together, not just a program that one little area of the church looks at. So I think that that's the role of the leadership, is to keep that in mind across the board in everything that you're doing. So secondly is really what we're talking about, are the 5 R's of zero waste. And your team can start there with these broad topics, because I think every congregation is different, every community is different, everyone has their own culture that's already established. You have your own context, and so just to simply take what we've done and put it on top of your situation might not work. You need to figure out what's going to work for your people and your place. So these 5 R's, we've heard of the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Everybody remembers the Schoolhouse Rock song, right? But this also, the 5 R's, we have reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse, and rot. And we go into more depth on that on the site, but I'll say a little bit about each thing, is just to start your thinking. So first of all, when you think about zero waste, church or community, to think about reduce. Oh, and I should say that the 5 R's came from Bea Johnson. And she really, I think, started the whole zero waste movement. She wrote the book called Zero Waste Home. So Bea Johnson, if you're interested in seeing how someone really took this to her home and made this happen. So the 5 R's from Bea Johnson. So reduce. Number one, thinking about what can we let go of? What can we stop doing? It really is a matter of questioning your assumptions. A lot of times in communities, we just keep rolling along, and we did what we did last year and the year before that, and we've always done it this way. I think starting to see what we can reduce and not use, or think about how we use our resources, means questioning your assumptions. So that could be a place to start. Just because we've done things this way, do we have to keep doing things this way? We, in the Episcopal Church, we have prayer books, but we also print these bulletins. And these bulletins use a lot of paper. And so we had to ask ourselves, could we go back to just using the prayer books? Some Episcopal churches are already there, right? So it is, again, what can we reduce? The second R, reuse. What do we already have? We have a small kitchen here. We don't have a dishwasher yet. We're working on it. But one thing we do have are reusable forks, knives, and spoons, because someone created a wedding registry for the church at one point and let people buy forks, knives, and spoons. So any event that we have that involves food, we don't have to use plastic utensils. We could, it would be easy, but we did make that commitment that no more plastic utensils. We will commit to using what we already have and washing them. So what do you already have? Maybe you're fortunate enough to have a commercial kitchen in your community, in your space, with a great dishwasher, and you need to invest in plates. I don't know, but think about what it is you could reuse. Again, that for your team to look at that. What are you doing? And third, recycling, which I think we've all heard, put it in the blue bin. But I think in thinking about zero waste and everything we know about recycling, how few people recycle, how few things actually get recycled, is one thing to look at. How can we reduce our recycling? How can we step away from single-use plastic items? How can we really think? And that goes along with reducing and refusing, and also into refusing. Again, what can we say no to that we're just not going to do anymore? One thing that we've done here is ask if groups or people use our space to not bring plastic water bottles, that we will provide water, we'll provide lemonade, we'll help them with that, but not to bring single-use plastic water bottles onto our campus to try and yes, we can recycle them, but will they actually be recycled? So what can we say no to? What can we refuse? Which again goes to questioning those assumptions again. And then finally, the fifth R is rot. And this was a big one for us. And I think this is what really sent us down this path, was thinking about composting and being serious about composting. We had a compost bin in our garden, which people were bringing their food scraps from their homes and dumping in there. We were taking things from the garden, the green and the brown as well, from the garden. But we, right before we started in 2017 of going full on zero waste, we hired a commercial compost company to bring us a bin that they come and pick up weekly. So it's like a trash pickup, but it is compost. Because they're a commercial compost, they're much in scale. The compost gets a lot hotter. I'm sure there's scientists on here who could talk a lot more about that than me. I just do the theology piece, right? But the compost then can take things that we couldn't put in our garden compost. So all of our plates, all of our cups, everything that we buy now to use is compostable. We tell people if they want to save leftover meats, cheeses, things that you wouldn't put in a backyard composting or in a garden compost, but we can take it in the commercial compost. So, and encouraging our people to bring their stuff, to start composting and putting it in our compost. And a lot of these services will give you compost back, and we've asked them to give it to a farm that we have here that is part of our Interfaith Food Shuttle. And so we've donated our compost there, and we create our own in our own garden. So how can you start composting? If you're not already, and again, context is really important. I was talking to a priest in Charlotte who said, we're in the middle of the city. We're a city block. We have no garden, there's no place for a garden compost. I said, yes, but you're in Charlotte. I know that Compost Now is there, and hire them. It will cost you a couple dollars a week. And I know cost is a consideration for people, and to think about, but looking at your overall cost and thinking about your commitment to doing this, that the money's usually there. If you decide you want to do it, we always find the money somewhere when we decide that it's important to us. And so if this is important to you, you'll find the money to do it. I truly, truly believe. So one place you could start, your little team that you've got started with your leader, is to do a trash audit. What are you actually throwing away? What is going in your trash can each week? And start picking it apart and asking yourselves about those 5 R's. How can we not have this in our trash can anymore? And just start. That's all I can say is just get started. And the final thing I want to say is why. Like I said, if you decide to be committed to this, why? How do you explain to people why you're doing this? Why is it important, especially for communities of faith, which is where I'm coming from. From a community of faith standpoint, what difference does this make, and why is it important? And I think to keep that in mind always, if you think about what we could call theology of plastic, what is plastic, especially single-use plastic, is about convenience. And it's about me. And it is about what's convenient for me and what makes my life easy. And what I've done then is I've put myself in the center of the world. And as a person of faith, I've committed my life to not having myself be in the center of the world. I put God in the center of my world. So if I can move away from this theology of disposability, I can move back to putting God in the center when I think about my resources and I think about what I'm doing. That remembering that creation is a gift and we have the resources we need to do the jobs we have been given to do. Again, a theology of abundance rather than scarcity, and a belief that we will have what we need. So if we do need more resources to compost, that will be there. And then finally, for me and my tradition, it is about the call from God to love my neighbor, and to love my neighbor like I love God and myself. And when I really think about there is no away. When we throw things away, there is no away. It's going in somebody's backyard. It's going in somebody's place. Even the production of it, the waste that is created in the production of the things that I end up throwing away, that too is going into somebody's backyard. That too is affecting my neighbor's health. It's probably affecting my health too. To start thinking about this and being honest about it is another reason why. We have on the site, I found a great TED Talk by Van Jones called The Economic Injustice of Plastic. And it's great, and you should watch the whole thing. But the thing that he said that really got me in this, and I'm gonna just quote him, is when you create a world where you don't trash people, you don't trash the planet. And what he's looking for is a coming together of social justice and ecology, where we don't have disposable anything. We don't have disposable resources. We don't have disposable species. We don't have disposable people either. We don't have a throwaway planet, and we don't have throwaway children. And I think if we're keeping God at the center, we can remember these things, that to God, we are all precious, and we are called to love each other in the same way. As communities of faith, or the communities that we're of, we do have more obligation to bear with and that steps do have an impact. Composting does affect the climate. Food waste, food not going into the landfill, does affect the climate, which does affect all these other things. They have the ripple effect. And so what we do does matter. It matters to God, and it matters to our world. And that's why we've started Zero Waste Church. And I welcome any questions you might have about this, if it's specific or if it's in general or anything. Ask me. I love it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How much do your solar panels cost?
So the solar panels cost us $80,000. And we received a rebate from Duke Progress Energy, which North Carolina has going right now for residents, nonprofits, and business, of about $24,000.
Oh, that's
so our final cost was the 80 minus the 24. And it did provide us with enough for a third of our energy use. When I first came in 2011, Carl Siegel, one of the founders here, co-founders with me of Zero Waste Church, came to me and said, I want to put solar panels on the building. And I kind of laughed at him. I'm a little embarrassed to say. I was like, oh yeah, right, we'll do that. Sure, they're so expensive, and maybe we'll get one panel. And so the fact that we were able to do this was just really astounding to me. And I'll say we paid for it by a capital campaign that had a couple other items involved too. One was paying down a mortgage, and one was an HVAC system. And the solar panels actually got funded first. I had people who came to me and said, we want this to happen. We think that this is where things are going. We think this is really important. And we didn't really look at it as how much we were going to make back. There was, again, a commitment to this is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I love your theology of plastic too. That's a great phrase.
Thanks.
I'm an artist, and I use discarded plastics in my practice. So what has happened is that it's really sensitized me to just how much plastic we have, how much we throw away. We've got a community lunch that just throws away all those, polyester things. It's really terrible, what we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah. The small steps.
Mm-hmm.
Small steps to make a difference. Maybe if you can start with compostable plates,
Mm-hmm.
and some places will take composting too. So you can check with your local municipality; they might accept composting. So if you're not able to get a service, and if it's just a one-time event, you can collect what is compostable and take it. And compostable, the story out there is that compostable is a lot more expensive, and really when you break it down, and especially if you look at smart ways to buy it, it's really not. Again, I think that's the story. I will also say the more we ask for it, the price will come down. If consumers start asking for compostable materials and consumers start asking for more either commercial composting or really pushing our municipalities for curbside composting. San Francisco's been doing it for 30 years now, and the amount that now goes into the landfill is just astounding how much they have reduced it. I can't remember the amount right now, but it's really astounding. So it is possible, but we have to ask for it. We have to advocate for it.
Yeah, I understand they take their waste. Even the restaurants collect their waste, and it goes
Mm-hmm.
into the wineries, the vineyards
Mm-hmm.
out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Rev Stephanie, I know here at the center for all of our big events, we've done the same, where we've done compostable everything. If we're doing, and this is in partnership with Climate Reality Project, we try to print things on, seed paper, so that, thinking of inventive ways that we can do this. And it's not only good for the environment, but it also has that really simple, scalable click for people when they go, oh, I can do this with a compost. And when we actually had a reception, we had somebody standing next to the trash can, and people were just kind of absentmindedly, even though they were compostable cups, people were going to put them in the trash, and we had somebody standing there, and he loved the job.
Yes.
Because he'd be like, no, you can put literally everything in your hand into these 2 compost bins.
Yeah.
And people just perked up, and it broke them out of a routine and a pattern, kind of like you were talking about, and made them think a little differently, and a smile came onto their face. Because at the root, everyone wants, I think, a lot of people want to do this, and when the system allows for it, they get excited. But I want to ask you, you talked about needing to have a very engaged group of people. And I wonder, and you already had the garden, but I'm wondering, did these folks come to you, or was this something that was driven by you and your church leadership to really, turn up the dial and make this happen?
I had the people already that were committed and wanted to see something happen. What they needed from me was to say, let's go big.
Right.
Let's go all out here. And that was all that they were waiting, release the hounds, right? Let's go. And let's make this happen. And they needed that commitment for me to know that I was going to back them up in the other programs. And when it did come to the governing board to say, well, are we spending more money on compostable materials? To say, no, I've looked at the figures, we're actually not. If you look at our budget, it's the same. So I think that was the piece that was missing. I couldn't drive this by myself. I think there's too much work to be done. And I think that if you have a team that also spreads out your skills and your gifts, the folks that I work with have gifts that I don't have. And we need each other. In order for this to work, we really need to work together to have all those gifts. So I think that's the important thing too. And it's interesting. I mean, we have what we need. We have the people that we have needed at the right time for this to come together. Now, as a congregation, are we all of one heart and one mind? No. I mean, there are some people that were not happy about solar panels and didn't understand why we needed it and said, I'm not giving to the solar panels, I'm going to give to the mortgage. Okay, I'll take your money either way, right? but it's okay, right? Because I think that's what community does, is that there are areas in the community where we want to push a little bit more, and then there are areas of the community that hold us back or are going to push in a different direction. There are a number of things that this congregation is interested in and are a part of. This is one piece of it, but I think that that's why it's so important, and why I want to emphasize it. What I'm hoping to do, and what I think is happening, is it is becoming a way of life for us. That these decisions we make around ecology and environmental stewardship and our sustainability and reducing our energy, all those things, reducing our trash, affect the other programs and ministries we have going on in the church. So, Vacation Bible School, big example. So if you've ever done Vacation Bible School, I don't know if anybody who's watching has been part of Vacation Bible School, but here down south, VBS is a big thing, and we go all out with the decorations, right? And usually these decorations take a lot of time to put up. It looks great, and then when it's over, it all comes down and just goes in the trash. Mm. And so this year, our youth minister and children's director said, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to look at what do we already have, what do we already own, so we don't have to buy new stuff, and what can we do, and be really strategic about what we put up and what we do decorate and what we don't decorate. And we mentioned this. We had a big parent meeting. She told the parents this, thinking the parents were going to be worked up and we'd have to explain. The parents said, oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We don't want to come and decorate. We are just fine with just having some key things that are happening and putting our time and our resources into spending time with the kids and getting ready for the kids to be here with the crafts and the activities, the experience, really. So but I think 2 years ago, we would have just done the big decorations because that's what we do. We wouldn't have stopped to think about it and to ask the questions.
So 2 questions for you, Reverend. The first one is, how do you organize people to help wash dishes? And the second one is from I believe a ministry. They said they make sandwich lunches for the local shelter. They ask for plastic water bottles to give to the homeless. So is there a possible way around the plastic factor, or is that, something that they have to think about when ministering to the homeless?
Yes. So I think that the plastic water bottles, I think that's probably, you're probably not going to, that's going to be the most efficient way to serve the needs of that community. And again, I think that's another context issue so if there is an area where there's a community that needs plastic water bottles, or that we don't have an efficient way of getting them the beverage that we can reuse, that might have to be it. Is there a way you can try and recycle with that? I don't know, not knowing more specifics about it, but I'd say, so if we are going to commit to that, where can we lessen what we're using because it's convenience? Does that make sense? Is there another area where we are using plastic water bottles where we don't need to, that to look at that? But I think too, that's why we look at the big picture with this too. I think the core value there is caring for this community that is vulnerable. And so how can you meet the need of the community that's vulnerable? And until there is a better way to do it, maybe the plastic water bottles is the way to go. If it's something that they stay, are reusable cups possible, or compostable cups, if you're composting, and having a central area for water or lemonade or whatever the beverage is. Now, washing dishes is a hard one. I mean, it really is. And I think what I found in our congregation is anything that can spread the love. And so that no one person or one group of people are always the ones who end up doing it. And so sharing that responsibility. And if not, if your congregation just isn't willing to do it, looking to do compostable items that then just get thrown in the compost rather than going in the trash. And I think that's, again, what will work with your people. What does your people's time look like? And maybe it's steps too. Maybe you start with the compost and then you can gradually build in using more reusable items.
Are there any other questions? I have two more on deck. Is there any other questions from anyone else that they've come up with, thought about, they'd like to throw in here while we still have Reverend Stephanie on the line?
Oh, I have a question. Have you ever heard of something called Plastic Bank, where people in underdeveloped countries collect plastic and then they use it to trade for real things like education? And I mean, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I should give my money towards this.
I've never heard of this. I'd have to look into that and do some research. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yes. I'm looking into all these little organizations that have popped up to try and clean the ocean, get the plastics out of there.
Mhm. Mhm.
The next two questions we have are, have you ever tried Eco Palms? And are there any other changes to decorations for special liturgies?
Yes, we have used Eco Palms for the past couple of years. We've been doing that, and what we're going to try to do next year, and I actually stole this idea from a congregation in Pennsylvania, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. They used native plants for their palms last year. They found something local that was long and swirly, and that they could use to wave on Palm Sunday. And I thought, that's a fantastic idea, because even the Eco Palms still have to travel. They still create a carbon footprint by being shipped. So we're going to look into that next year. We're partnering with a local nursery to see if there's something local and native that we could use here instead. We'll see. We might not. We might have to use Eco Palms again, and we'll keep working on it. In terms of decorations, our flower guild, our folks who do flowers for us every Sunday, try to use things that are local. They try to use a lot of things that come from either our garden or people's yards or gardens that they have. I mean, we live in North Carolina. We're in a really temperate place, so that makes it a little bit easier. But we try to use native plants, native flowers in that. And then other liturgical, we reuse a lot. Banners are reused seasonally. A lot of those things we keep. We do buy Christmas greens. We do buy those, and then we spread them out into the woods that we have. We have some wooded areas, so they don't go in the trash. But we do buy those. Does that answer that question?
So one thing that I'm definitely interested in, I'm sure of other people, I grew up in my church. I've been there since I was a very young child. And it's interesting to hear about all your programs, especially with your monthly challenges and different things you all do. Is there a specific way that you all get younger people involved in youth? I know you can always, make fun games out of it. And, is there something that you've done, something that you've seen has been successful with really getting the young kids involved and making it an entire church family effort versus just the adults?
Yes, and well, the kids are really on board already. They're much more adaptable and amenable, I think, because they've been hearing about climate change their whole lives. So our youth program has done a couple retreats, and at these retreats, either just here at our own church or at a larger level with the other churches that we're connected with, that some of these events they've said to the kids, these are going to be zero waste. We're only going to use cups, and we're going to wash them, and we're going to try not to throw anything away. That had a big impact on our young people, that they came home and really talked about, all right, how do we make sure we do this here at home too? The drinking straws was a good entry point into this too. They talked about it in Sunday school, and then they heard it at this retreat. And so all of our kids now carry their own drinking straws, reusable straws, rather than using plastic straws. And they want to recycle when they go out to eat, and they look for places to go and eat at youth group where they're not, they're using plates rather than paper plates and that kind of thing. Another thing is, and our youth, when we have youth dinners, we tend to have a lot of food left over. And so we couldn't figure out what to do with that leftover food. We're not close to any kind of feeding program where, and sometimes those places can't take food that's already prepared. And so we've actually partnered up with a local fire station, and we've created a relationship there with the kids, especially that the kids are the ones that one family will volunteer to take the leftover food over there to the fire station. The firemen are always have dinner that the next couple of days, or to eat it for lunch the next couple of days, but also to get to know those guys and those people, and to say thank you, and to let them know that, you know, there's a church down the way that cares. So that's been pretty cool too. I think anytime a relationship can be established, it's borne a lot of fruit. To thinking about that this impacts a lot of people, not just our own community, and kids are definitely on board with that. So again, the Vacation Bible School was huge, and the kids know to put their things in compost. They're actually better at it than some of the adults, honestly. When they finish with their snack at Sunday school, they put it in the compost bin, and rather than in the trash. So it's again, I think this idea that this is a way of life and a way of being together, a way of living together, and part of our identity. The kids are pretty on. They're already understanding that. They're not having to relearn habits in the same way.
Are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to direct to Reverend Stephanie, myself, or Andrew? I'm grateful for you all's presence. I don't want to hold anybody up from lunch or anything. So, you know, any last comments, we're happy to take them.
I have a question. This is Paola.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Hi. I don't know if you've ever heard about TerraCycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've tried to contact them because I'm saving all my plastic. I'm saving all my composting stuff. I know they can recycle a lot of stuff. I was bewildered by the price that they give you for a box, however, at the training that I did on Water and Faith, Andrew, there was somebody, one of the faith leaders that I think have a program with TerraCycle, and I understood that once you have a 40 pounds material, they will buy from you. And so I'm actually confused, because when I talk to them, they say, no, you need to buy a box. And the bigger box is over $300, like $380. And I have probably need for 10 boxes. So I can't afford that, you know? So do you guys know if there is a program for faith communities, that you can actually do it without paying the boxes?
I don't know of one. We TerraCycle here, and we have a thrift store here in the Raleigh area, Raleigh and Cary, that is a collection site for TerraCycle. So you can take your things, and so that's one of the things that one of the people on our team does. She's our TerraCycle person, and she takes them and she drops them off there, whatever we've collected. We don't collect a whole lot. I think if we ask members of the congregation to start bringing things, we would collect a lot more. We might have to do something differently. I know there are some schools that TerraCycle, so I wonder if there's a program through schools where TerraCycle might give you a break in price.
Okay, I will look into that. I know that there is on the website We Work Together. But I never looked into it yet. I know that these faith leaders said that they work with, but I can't imagine they would spend all that money for the boxes. Or do they? The thrift store, does it spend money for the boxes?
I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Okay. I'll look into that.
It could be they're a large enough organization that because they send so much stuff, they've worked out a different deal. So it's just scale.
Okay.
I don't know enough about it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
Last question. Are there any Vacation Bible School programs on zero waste or earth stewardship that you would recommend?
No, we're looking at that. We're actually looking at that. And I actually saw something. There's a woman who is Episcopalian named Jerusalem Greer had posted something on her Instagram about there's something with composting in her vacation Bible school. So she's on my list to contact and to ask what curriculum they use or if they made up their own. And that's something that we might end up doing. And if we do, we'll probably try to share it on Zero Waste Church, where like our Year of Personal Action program, we really want people to take our stuff and use it. And if you need to change it to make it your own, just attribute us. It's nice, but use the stuff that's there. So if we do come up with something, I will share that on the Zero Waste Church site.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Reverend, for your knowledge and your insight. I'm hoping that everyone will take all this knowledge that we've received today back to your own church and apply it in some way. Get your green team together, your ecological ministry, whoever, you and 3 or 4 friends at church, start recycling, start composting, get the kids involved, make it a real family and community affair, because churches are the cornerstone, places of worship, are the cornerstone of many communities, not just as a building, but they serve a lot of people in the community in many ways. And as we serve people, continuing to be conscious of our footprint and how we leave an impact on the earth is very important. And I'm hoping that all that she shared today can really influence that. You can learn more about Zero Waste Church at zerowastechurch.org. Am I correct, Reverend? zerowastechurch.org. Numerous resources. There's monthly challenges. There's tips to how to become a zero waste church, tips on food waste, renewable energy. I mean, the website is absolutely awesome, just full of resources to click on that are easy to understand, and you can take any of those resources with you to your place of worship and apply them as you see fit. There's several other websites that have resources. I know Green Faith has a lot of great resources for doing a ecological ministry, as well as Interfaith Power and Light. So those are 2 others to check out. If you need any information about the Center for Earth Ethics, you can reach out to Andrew. And any information about the Climate Speakers Network, you can reach out to me. I believe my email is on the introductory email, but we'd be happy to send that out to anyone who really wants to connect with either one of our organizations and learn more about what we do and ways to work together. Yeah, I'm just excited that you were able to share this time with us. I hope everyone, like I said, is going to take something from this webinar and apply it once they get back to their place of worship and get their green team together. I'm excited about going to my own church and getting them on board with more sustainable actions, because I know we can do a lot more. And now that I have the tips from her website, I can definitely put more together that it's been a little bit hard at first, but we can do better now. Andrew, anything from you?
Not really. Just thank you again to everyone who was on board. And like Laura said, if you have any questions about the center or you want to get involved in our ministers training or any of our eco ministry programs, just reach out. Reverend Stephanie, thank you. It was illuminating and inspiring. And I love how you helped me remember that the little things really do have large rippling effects. And though climate change seems like such an enormous problem, there are things that we can do at our homes, in our backyards, in our churches that are going to bring about the change that we need to see. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday. I know it's a lunch hour for many, so if you haven't eaten, we're going to let you get to that. We're going to send up a follow-up email to all of you with our contact information, as well as some additional resources that you can use as you continue towards your zero waste church journey. And please feel free to reach out to any of us, and feel free to reach out to Reverend Stephanie with any of your questions. As you see, she's a complete expert on the topic. So I'm sure if she doesn't have the answer, she can find you an expert who has studied the zero waste ways that she has, that can definitely give you an answer to go further in your journey of becoming a zero waste place of worship.
All righty. Well, thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good meeting for all.